Okay. Hello, Adriano. How's it
Very,
going?
very nice to see you, Mello. A pleasure to be on your show and very excited to be answering your question. I am honored to be here.
Oh, well, I'm honored that, you want to be a part of this because you're basically one of my favorite mentors ever. So,
Thank
so
you. Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for having this conversation with me because I know your time is very sacred. So I appreciate it.
A real pleasure. A real pleasure. And I'm excited about the topic that you asked me to talk about it. I know that you care very much, and I really, really happy to address.
Oh yeah, of course. So, yesterday, we introduced you on our blog post. But in case people did not get to see that, Adriano Pianesi is an educator at the Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, and also he's a leadership and organizational coach for a long time. And that's why he's bringing all that knowledge today. And I can't wait to get started and learn more about your journey, Adriano. So let's get
Yeah,
started.
honor, please, please. Happy to do that. Happy to do that.
So I guess really the main question, I know you told me that you're originally from Italy.
Correct.
Um,
From Rome, I became an immigrant, became an American citizen in 2001, and really has been an incredible journey of growth and personal development, but also of change, which is one of the key themes of my work. I teach what I went through as I readapted to a new culture throughout the US.
wow. So, you mentioned like a word that can be very triggering for many people. You said change. So, how did you get started on this career, on something that a lot of people may seem very allergic to?
Yeah, inevitably a biographical kind of path, and also a certain, I would say, curiosity, exactly because the topic is so complicated and really problematic for so many people. So I've always trying to address those kind of topic like change or conflict or adaptation or reinvention or makeovers, those are all themes that are part of my work because I am deeply focusing on bringing real results to my clients. And so the tagline of my consulting work is cracking difficult problems with you and your team, because I do feel that at the end of the day, people like me, if they are to give a contribution to a client, they have to really help solve problems. And so I realized that change was one of the main problems that people were addressing in the organization.
Wow. Wow. So, okay, change. So, when you're talking about change, because it's not just a change within yourself,
Correct.
helping
Correct.
other people also think about change and act on it.
That's
Um,
right.
what kinds of information do you collect or process, when you're the consultant or the coach, right?
Yes.
And also, what kinds of information do you tell your clients or your students to collect as they think about conflict and change and this like very um potentially volatile topics, right, in organizations.
I have to say that I am very conscious of the fact that my process, when I begin in an assignment, no matter whether it's facilitation work, is leadership development, or coaching, or teaching work, is strongly based on collecting more data than the average person that I do know. I give you an example. I just facilitated a retreat for a leadership team recently, and the client was surprised that I wanted to talk with each single member of the executive team for at least 30 to an hour before the retreat. They were not used to that level of detail and understanding. Or when I do coaching, for example, I spend a lot of time doing what I call a mini 360, which is I ask my coaching client to give me the name of few people that are committed to their development, and I send them a survey asking them a few questions about the person that I'm about to coach. And again, those provides very effective and useful data point for me to actually then do the work and select what is the best possible coaching plan. Or when I do, for example, my teaching, you have been yourself in one of our classes, and you know very well that the work is very much open-ended in the sense that the data is being collected in the room as we speak, and then based on that data, the conversation go in one direction or another. In fact, I would say that one of my typical processes are exactly process that I realize talking with you now are very much open-ended, meaning we don't focus on one set of data and that's it. And the data collection finishes. You know, the collection of data continues and continues to evolve in an ongoing process of collection and then decision making. So there is not a this is where we collect data, this is when we decide and when we act. But the
Mm.
process is ongoing.
Okay, wow. That's like super comprehensive um and I can tell some people are like maybe they don't feel like they're prepared or trained to do that.
Right. But that's
I
true.
guess how did you train yourself in like amassing information? It sounds like sometimes on the fly, right? Like if you're in a
Yes.
classroom and you're trying to gauge the vibe or the sentiment in the room, something that I would imagine you had to train yourself over time.
Yes, I think that it came. I mean, it's a sense of adaptability. I talk about it in my TED talk because I think that there is an issue, and I think you know very well because when you were in our class, you were incredibly adaptable on the hot seat to answer
Thanks.
those questions from the audience. But and by the way, for people here listening, this is an activity that we do in our capstone certificate, where a person is in the middle of the room being verbally attacked by the opposition to that change. And so here is an example where you have to be adaptable. But I did it because, and is included in that course, because I realized that that's the reality of data collection. We never have a totality of data collection. So to answer your question, my adaptability is definitely a personal trait, but is also, I realize, a kind of a price that you need to pay if you really want to embrace complexity. Complexity is a main theme of my work. I say that there are three themes. One is being person centered, the second is complexity conscious, and the third is being results oriented. I would say that the data collection process focuses on this ability to capture complexity and not to be easily swayed by the complexity or the uncertainty, but instead kind of staying in the complexity for the sake of better understanding.
Hmm. Yeah, you brought up a lot of fascinating points there, especially in regards to complexity, which a lot of people again are scared of. Uh,
Yes, that's right.
and it made me think about actually your TED talk that we've mentioned before, where there were two things there that you said that really resonated with me. So I'm gonna read it for everybody. So
Please.
the first thing that Adriana said, acceptance is the beginning of change. And then the second thing that Adriana said, relearning is the work of change. So, you thinking on the first thing there, on the first statement, where you have to accept something for to start the changing process.
Yes.
Actually, in order to accept something, you have to first know, right?
Yes. Know it. Yes. And be on the lookup sometime for trying to know it. And that is exactly the, acceptance is the beginning of change. This is a famous statement of Alcoholism Anonymous. But the reason why this, I think it's relevant in the work of change, is that many people do not, they bring a lot of value judgment on the data. They like it or they don't like it. and instead what we're talking here is not judging the situation. So in a sense is a very mindful kind of position, but it's the idea of having the courage to face the reality of the situation. And a lot of my work in leadership is about what I call stepping on the balcony, meaning on this imaginary space where you see things from a distance and you're able to see the big picture. So the idea is you want to first face reality, and that ability in itself make a huge difference in the work of leadership.
Okay. And now I'm going to go to the second statement, which is
Yes.
about relearning is the work of change. And so, this idea of relearning, right? Especially if you're someone who's been working for a while and you could be a senior staff or a manager or a director or like a subject matter expert. Like, I'm an expert. Why do I have to relearn anything? So, like, what do you think anybody, whether they're considered an expert or like the number one professional in that field, like like could they benefit from any relearning?
Absolutely. This goes back to that concept of change we were talking about. As you know very well, in our class, we talk about the fact that change is happening, is already happening as we speak. And whether change maker wants to admit it or not, change is already going on. Whether or not it's going in the direction that they want, that's another conversation. But when change happens, that means that the world is changing. And so again, reality is changing. And so in that sense, relearning is nothing more than the consequence of acceptance is the beginning of change. You have to accept the fact that the world continues to evolve and change, and relearning is what we need to do in order to continue to deal with the complexity in the world.
Wow. That really resonated with me, especially with a lot of external factors that we can't control, right?
That's right.
Whether that's in our daily lives, our workplace, I mean, our society, right? The governments, things like that. And so I think I really appreciate you for sharing all this insight that could really help. Well, it's helping me hearing it.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I'm hoping this also could maybe give someone something to think about, right? And especially in times where like there's a lot of uncertainty and
Yeah.
change.
I
Um,
can tell you that in executive coaching, the concept of collecting data is almost as important as the coaching itself. Because, the truth is when you coach an executive, you are only see them once a week, once every 2 weeks, for maybe an hour. And it's hardly enough to cause any real change. The real work is really through that week, through those 2, 3 weeks, the person creates their own rhythm for change, and that is really what make the work happen. So data is just a way to make sure that that work is correctly addressed.
okay. Wow. Well, again, I'm looking at the time and I know you have to go. If people want to reach out, like we will put the information on our page, but also is there any like thing that you want to share that like you haven't shared yet, maybe your website or anything like that?
Pianesi.com is my website, which is my last name.com, pianesi.com. But yeah, I mean, I also have a newsletter. Would love to share with people that want to learn a little bit more about these themes. The newsletter is called The Adaptive Challenger, and we're happy to, it's a free newsletter on LinkedIn. It's a way for you to keep track of what I'm doing there. And in general, I think that collecting and talking to you, Malo, has been a real pleasure. So I'm so glad that this made us have a conversation.
Yeah, no, no, thank you. And like I said, that I met Adrian because I took his amazing class, and you should really check it out. It's called the Applied Leadership course, but I think you actually have a lot of different courses, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes. I teach the Applied Leadership Capstone at the Carey Business School at Johns Hopkins, and also this new class called Facilitating Collaboration. It's a 3-day course in February, and will be given again throughout the year, to actually apply what I liberating structures and in general very contemporary approach that unleash and include everybody. Again, talking about collecting data, more data in real time, and never actually excluding any data from this collection.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And we're gonna post that as well, your
Thank
upcoming
you. Thank
class.
you so much,
Okay,
Mallory.
well, it's been a great pleasure, and I hope you, you know, go for it and inspire more people, like how you have inspired me. So thank you.
Thank you, Mallory. A real pleasure. A real pleasure.
Okay, have a good one.